मैम स्टार्ट कर दीजिए आप।
Hello. Yeah, you can hear me clearly. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay. Let's start the session. A very good afternoon to all of you and welcome to another MIC activity under the Institution's Innovation Council. It is a session on from your PhD or your master's thesis to a startup. And it was an MIC activity driven activity which was held on 23rd April. And the speaker was Dr. Anant Deshpande, who is the founder and chief managing director of Persistent Systems. He has done his B.Tech in CSE from IIT Kharagpur and MS and PhD in computer science from Indiana University, Bloomington, USA. Today, I'll be presenting the synopsis of this talk for those who are not able to join the session earlier. So let's start. Hope the screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
All right. So first of all, Dr. Anand Deshpande congratulated everyone on their success. Because if you have done your master's, or your M.Tech, or if you have done your PhD, that means you have come a long way. You have a number of skills, you have a number of qualities due to which you have been able to get to this point after completing your M.Tech thesis or after completing your PhD thesis. And convince yourself that your skills are valuable to be an entrepreneur. Why? Because in your M.Tech thesis, in your PhD synopsis, you need tenacity, you need focus, you need contextual awareness, and you need persistence. So ये जो सारी चीज़ें हैं, tenacity to go after the subject, focus on your objectives, contextual awareness about the subject which you are going to take, about the topic that you are going to go through, and persistence to chase the topic, to chase the objective in order to get the desired result in the end. So all these qualities are there in you if you have done your PhD or M.Tech thesis, and these are the exact qualities that are required to be an entrepreneur. Because without persistence, without chasing your goal over and over again, without chasing the objectives over and over again, you cannot be an entrepreneur. Because a number of situations are there where you will feel like you're losing out, but you have to be persistent in chasing your goal. Generally, there is a mindset constraint among people कि अगर PhD करी है, then the person has to go into research only. After PhD, you must go for research. And researchers cannot be entrepreneurs. Why? Because you have done your M.Tech, you have done your PhD, and after this, you're going to go into research only related to your topic, or you are going to do research in industries related to this topic. But why it cannot be the starting of an entrepreneurship development? Why cannot it be something that will give rise to a startup? This mindset constraint is there in the general public regarding PhD or M.Tech researchers. Why? Because generally it doesn't happen. So there was one talk with Dr. Anant Deshpande where people came up with a thing ki why, what can we do about the students, about the people who are coming out of PhD, how to give them jobs, how to give them jobs, how to make them market ready. Why there's need for a PhD, someone who has done his PhD or M.Tech to just go for a job? Why can't they go for something that they have worked on in their M.Tech or PhD that they can take up as a startup? So this question was raised, and The mindset constraint was also discussed, that why such people cannot go for entrepreneurship, why cannot they start their own startup? Because in your M.Tech or PhD, what you do is you're selecting a topic and you're going after it. You're selecting a problem and you're going for the solution. Then why not select a problem that will solve common issues? Why not select such a problem that will bridge the gap between different researchers, that will bridge the gap between your study, between your academia and industry, so that it can, later on, it can develop into a startup. So this discussion was held that if you're doing rigorous research for 4 years, 3 years, 5 years in a certain topic, why not do it in a topic in which you can also give jobs to other people? You can go for a startup also. So PhD and entrepreneurship both are interrelated. The PhD journey is best for entrepreneurship. Why? Because you have already demonstrated in your 4-5 years of your PhD that you are a beacon of innovation. You have proven yourself that you are an innovator who is working upon bridging the gap between researchers, bridging the gap between industry and academia, bridging the gap between different hypotheses, and then you are going for it. You are proving it in the end. You have also demonstrated that you are focused, you took one problem, you took certain objectives, and then you went for it. And you brought out the solution to those objectives, or you completed those objectives. This also shows that you are contextually aware. You have done your theory, you have done your complete literature review. That means you are well aware of the topic that you are going to work upon. You're very well aware of the topic that you are going to work upon. And you're also persistence. Entrepreneurship में या PhD में अगर persistency नहीं है, because at one point will come where you'll feel like giving up. You'll feel like कि नहीं solution नहीं निकला है. I'm not able to find a solution to this problem. I'm not able to fulfill the objectives. I'm not able to justify the hypothesis. So how should I go forward? You feel like giving up. But then rising again and going for it, that is what your PhD is all about, and that is what takes to be an entrepreneur. And you are, of course, privileged that you have come till this journey. You have completed this journey. You have been able to do this much research. You have been able to get into a topic and find out the solutions for something in depth. So all these things are the common pathway between PhD and entrepreneurship. So generally the prerequisites for an entrepreneurship are: you have to build an idea and validate it. You have to find a problem and you need to find a solution towards it. Team building, you have to build a team who will be working on which aspect of your startup or your entrepreneurship venture. And the cash flow, where will the money come from? Because most of the startup initial stages the startups don't earn money. You have to be very careful with the cash flow. You have to see where you're going to bring in the money from. So these three are the main prerequisites for an entrepreneurship venture. Then Dr. Anand Deshpande talked about the lean startup process. When we are talking about a lean startup में होता क्या है? We are basically trying to minimize the waste. एक lean concept है that's into management and all industrial processes. What you are trying to do is you are trying to reduce the wastage, be it in the number of steps that are going into manufacturing, or be into a number of steps that you are going to test your model, prototype, or you are going to work on some something related to your startup. So lean startup process generally consists of customer development, the target customer. Who are you going to target? For whom are you going to design and develop your product? Targeting the customer as well as the market, which market you are going to go for, whether it is a young market, an infant market, the grown-up market, किस तरह की market है, You have to do proper research before foraying into such type of a startup. The next thing is agile engineering. In agile engineering, what we do is we break up the work into small parts, into different small parts, and then we work on these small parts so that if any failure is there, then we can identify it. Then we develop a business model canvas, how we are going to go for our business. These all constitute the lean startup process. So when this lean manufacturing was actually developed or started or founded by Dr. Deming, who introduced the lean quality principles, and Taichi Ono, who develops the Toyota production system in the 1950s. So these two are considered the father, the gurus, the starters of lean manufacturing. So when we're talking about customer discovery, starting में हमने बोला था कि you have to see which type of market you are going into, what type of customer you are going to cater to. So if you're talking about that, then you have to first develop a product hypothesis. Hypothesis generally हम किसी भी problem में we start a hypothesis कि how we will go for it. You have some hypothesis कि this can happen. Then you go for customer and problem hypothesis, what customer you are going to target and what kind of problem you can encounter. Next, you go for distributing and pricing hypothesis. Maybe this will be a way of distribution and maybe this will be the price that we'll keep for our product. Next, you would go for demand creation hypothesis, where you create a demand for your product by making the customer aware of your product. And then you go for the market type hypothesis. You see what type of market is there, whether it is a saturated market, whether it is an uncharted market. You go for it, and then you go for the competitive hypothesis. In competitive hypothesis, you have to see your competition. Who is your competition? Who you are going to compete with? So all these after stating all these hypotheses, then you go for testing the problem hypothesis, the second hypothesis that we talked about. The first one is the friendly first contact. That is the interview, understanding what you're going to do. Next is the problem presentation, that you have a problem, you're giving a solution towards a certain problem. Next step is understanding the customer. This is the problem. What is the customer's views about this problem, about the problem that you want to solve? What are the customers, what the customer can give you, what he wants? And next is market knowledge. Again, market knowledge is something that you'll work upon throughout your startup. Next, we go for testing the product hypothesis. You have made a hypothesis for your product. The first reality check is checking your product, whether it is feasible or not, whether it is workable or not, whether you will be able to maintain this product in the market or not. The next is product presentation, about the product to the board. Yet more customers, checking if you can go, if the customers that you have outlined, these are the customers that we'll be targeting. Can we go for some other customers also? Can we go for some other class of customer also? Then we go for the second reality check. After getting all these reality check, product presentation, and more foraying into watching, if we can go for more customers, we go for the second reality check. Then it goes to the advisory board, what should be done with the product after all this. In the end, we verify our startup or hypothesis or product. First, we verify the problem that we are working upon, verify the product, the business model that we are going to take for it, and the iterate or exit. So in customer discovery, all these steps are important in order to define the type of customer that you are going to target or you're going to cater to. Now, if we talk about lean manufacturing, Lean manufacturing is basically a disciplined process to constantly reduce waste. In every step of manufacturing, in every step of product manufacturing, we are trying to reduce the waste. इससे related बहुत सारे concepts हैं, 6 sigma, 8 sigma, all these concepts are related to zero waste. We don't want any waste during the manufacturing process, be it the product, raw materials से जो final product बनेगा, be it the different resources like water, electricity, or be it the manpower that is going to manufacture the product or that is going to be there at various manufacturing stations. So in case of raw materials, in case of water and electricity, and in case of workforce also, we are trying to reduce waste at each and every step. And it is a constant journey, it's not a destination, because what will happen with the time, your product will change, your market will change, your manufacturing style will change. So it's not necessary you will just set up this type of manufacturing and you just leave it. There's no need to work on it. You need to constantly work upon methods, you need to constantly work on a number of ways in which you can make it better, in which you can again reduce waste further. So that the main objective here is to reduce waste. So basically there are 5 lean principles. First, you have to define the value for your product, the value of the market. Then you have to map the value stream, and you have to create the flow for that value. You have to establish a pull system, pulling the customer towards yourself, and pursue perfection towards the manufacturing of the product or towards the uh, providing of services to different sectors. So these principles need to be adhered to in case of any startup or in case of any entrepreneurship venture. Next is you have to first establish a baseline minimum viable product. So main is a viable. Viable means it should be in sync with the requirement of the customer's need, because you are developing a product that is a solution to a certain problem. चाहे वो किसी भी तरह की problem हो, industrial problem हो या daily problem हो, किसी तरह की problem के लिए you are giving a solution. So a minimum viable product is not actually a product, it is a constant process that you have to upgrade according to the market. It is basically a process of experimentation. You keep on experimenting and you keep on asking these 2 questions. What's my riskiest assumption? And what's the smallest experiment to test it? कि मैंने जो हाइपोथेसिस तैयार किया है, मैंने जो नंबर ऑफ ऑब्जेक्टिव्स तैयार किए हैं, इसमें which is the most riskiest part that I am doing, and if I can do it with minimum testing or minimum resources. Why? Because a lot of resources, be it human or capital, is wasted if the assumptions do not come out to be positive in the end, and your time is wasted, your startup is not going to work in this way. So the biggest risk that you have to go for that, and you have to see what is the minimum that I can do to tackle this risk. This is again one of the founders, Clayton Christensen, who said that people don't simply buy products or services. They pull them into their lives to make progress, and we call this progress the job that they are trying to get done. And understanding this opens a world of innovation possibilities. So we are not going to buy products. We are going to bring in something that will make our life easy, that will make progress in our lives. So this is a job that has to be done by the entrepreneurs. And if you understand what people want to upgrade in their life, what people want to bring into their life, then you can easily go for any startup or entrepreneurship venture. So Clayton gave one milkshake problem. He worked upon one milkshake problem where a fast food chain was interested in improving milkshake sales and they spent months doing the market research, asking customers questions about their milkshake. Was it good enough? Was it chocolatey enough? Was it thick enough? Did it contain the right amount of syrup? But there was no insight because some customers have different tastes. So this didn't give them any positive results regarding their research. But then they brought two consultants to examine the problem, and they were very surprised to find that most of the sale was being done in the morning. And after doing in-depth interviews, they discovered that the customers were basically buying milkshakes for breakfast. Why? Because it is something that will fill them for a certain amount of time till lunch. They'll be full because of the milkshake. So in this case, the competitor wasn't other milkshake providers or other milkshake companies, but that was the consumable breakfast foods like bagels or banana that people generally have for breakfast. People were replacing them with milkshakes so that they'll feel full till lunch. So now the milkshake company had an entirely new perspective on how to compete in the market rather than compete with other milkshake companies. So basically the thing in a startup is to understand the job for which customers hire a product or service. And this helps the innovators more accurately develop products that align with what customers are already trying to accomplish. This applies to everyone. This applies to students, teachers, parents, patients, physicians, everyone. Also to the undeserved and underprivileged populations whose solutions are misaligned with their true priorities. So it's not necessary कि आप कुछ बड़ा ही solution दोगे किसी बड़ी problem का. A simple plain solutions can be more than enough to start up your own business or provide solution to problem to the customer and sell your product. It needs to be a small thing that you can see कि this is not the right way to do it, or this is something that can be done, developed. So when we are talking about lean manufacturing, we talked about ideas that need time for development. If you have any idea, you need to build on that idea. You have to build your product and measure whether it fulfills the given demand or not. You have to collect data in order to see whether your product is being accepted by the market, whether your product is being whether your product is catering to the needs of the market, and then you need to learn whatever positive or negative feedback regarding your product, regarding your service you get from the market, that you measure, you get from the customer. You need to learn from that, and then you have to again work on your ideas to really develop your product. So this is a lesson learned in order to cater to various demands. So इस तरह से if you work, then this will also give you insight into what you are going to do, because अगर suddenly you have an idea and you go for it, the market मैंने सोचा है कि ये होगी, इस तरह का customer होगा, I'll develop a product, I'll just market में launch करते हैं इसको, this will earn a lot, ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता. What you have to check everything from the customer's perspective also. आपको competitor को भी देखना है, you have to go for everything. तो मेन इशू जो होता है जनरली इन एनी स्टार्टअप और एनी कंपनी इज द कैश generation, and it is basically the difference between all the cash flows into the business and all the cash that flows out of a business in a given time period. The cash inflow and the cash outflow constitutes the cash generation, the difference between it. So generally conventional business jargon में cash flow कहा जाता है, but Charan है, is again one of the industrialists, he prefers cash generation. He says that this phase forces everyone to understand both of the parts of the concept, that the money flows in and the money flows out. So this matters more than profits. Why? Because if you are out of cash, you are out of business. in order to do any new development, innovation, order to do any research into the market after launching your product, again, you will need cash so that you stay in business. If you're out of the business because of cash, uh, because of lack of cash flow, then those startups never survive the market. So the factors for comparison, if you go for something or not, if you go for a topic or not, if you go for something, a certain type of market or a certain type of product or not, depends on all these factors. That is the sales, what sales you have predicted, the gross margin, the net profit margin that you will be having, the velocity with which your product will get into the market, how frequently it will go into the market, how frequent you will run it, return on investment capital, the cash generation that is happening constantly, and the market share that you will enjoy in the market because of your product. So Dr. Anant Deshpande also talked about the Corver's 8 financial doctrines that include the past doesn't matter, look only to the future. Initially, startup में किसी भी काम में a number of hurdles will be there. You'll make a number of mistakes. Just like your M.Tech or PhD, initially क्या होता है कि you are not able to see कि हम कहाँ जा रहे हैं, whether I'm going in the right direction or not. A number of failures will come, but that doesn't matter. You have to go for it. You have to be persistent. You have to see with how you can bring solution to your PhD or M.Tech problem or to your startup problem. Money always has a time value. The money that is money की जो value आज है, after 5 years, after 2 years, that value will reduce. So accordingly, you have to develop a business plan. Next is return is proportional to risk. How much risk you are taking, that will be proportional to the return that you are getting. And it doesn't matter how you slice the cake remains the same size. The market will remain the same. It doesn't matter how much you see, how much you're going to cater to, but market will remain the same. You have to increase your customers. And your ideas have to be innovative, because there's no point in doing something that investor can do for themselves. You must bring something to the table. You cannot make money on what everybody knows. You have to bring something new, something innovative, some solution to the table in order to attract customer, in order to attract buyers and investors. Insiders generally know more than outsiders, because they know what the market needs and how you can get into something. So getting the knowledge, getting the feedback, getting the ideas from insiders is also very important. So actually, main thing is nobody knows anything. What you need to do, you are giving a solution to a problem. Maybe this will be, you will bring in the market a great product. Maybe your product will flop, but if you are doing everything right, then the startup, the entrepreneurship development that you go for, it will result into something. So basically, the M.Tech or the PhD topic that you take, if that is in sync with the market, कि आजकल जो चल रहा है उससे related है, and if it is providing solution to something that is there in the market, the problem that is there in the market right now, then you can easily develop it into a startup or entrepreneurship venture after having persistency, after having focus, after getting into the market and going for all the lean manufacturing processes and everything. So that's it about lean manufacturing. That's all from our side. If hopefully in this session I have covered all the topics, and hopefully this session has given you an insight how you can convert your PhD or M.Tech thesis into a startup venture. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your valuable understanding with the talk with Dr. Nandan Deshpande. Thank you. It was a great learning experience that you shared your understanding, and we learned how we can go into entrepreneurship. Thank you, ma'am, for giving your time to us and sharing your experience. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, everyone.